Hello and welcome to this video. All the people who are watching, a great video for you, a very important video, I would say, because today we will be discussing about SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3, all the three types of SOC reports. What is the importance of SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3? What do you need to understand from a reporting standpoint? What do you need to understand from compliance standpoint? What do you need to know about SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3 basics? So we will cover each and everything here. I have Akshay with me. Akshay, please take over.
Yeah, hi love. Thanks for having me here. Apologies because of me, your stream was delayed. Kind of got into some work for us, even weekends are like weekdays. So apologies for that, and apologies to all the people who were hoping to get this feed a little earlier. But yes, not taking much of your time. So here what we are going to talk about is a service organization's control reports, which is a SOC report essentially. So how did this come into picture is that any organization who is providing any kind of service to another entity is basically should be liable to showcase or assure to the other entity or their customers or their clients that all the services that they are providing which are relevant to those organizations follow a certain set of standards, follow a certain set of quality assurance checks, guidelines, and they are in line with what the client or the customer expects. So in similar lines, so this is for service organization specifically. In the same lines, as you can see over here, the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, which is AICPA, kind of formed this framework of defining different types of SOC reports. Essentially, what these SOC reports are saying is that they are telling you that with a certain expectation in mind, these reports have been distributed into different categories. And what they are essentially saying is that whichever relevant expectation you have, our services are following certain protocols. There are a certain way in which we have a controlled environment, we have controls that are implemented, and over either at a specific point of time or over a period of time, these controls have been, the effectiveness of these controls have been tested. And so the AICPA provides, so there is a service auditor who will come to that service provider or the service organization, and he will test, he will first understand what all controls you have, what is the business purpose, what are the kind of services you are performing, what is the scope of that SOC audit, you may call it, or that SOC report. And then he will test the effectiveness, and he will ascertain or testify or say whichever controls are actually implemented and which controls are actually lacking. So this is to give a brief about what basically SOC is. So the website is ssae16.com, and as you see, we are at the SOC reports page, which is ssae16_reports.html. So here they talk about, so for any type, so there are three types of SOC reports, which is SOC 1, SOC 2, and SOC 3. And within the SOC reports also, there is a type 1 and a type 2 report that is there. So SOC 1 specifically talks about a service organization's, let's say there is a customer, there is a client, and they have whatever internal controls they have to ensure that their financial reporting is not affected by that, or their financial reporting is stable. The service organization has now to prove that if whatever services they are providing which may affect or impact the customers financial reporting, all of those controls kind of come under the SOC 1 type. So they are talking about all those services which are which may affect your client's financial reporting. So that falls under SOC 1. SOC 2 says that, yeah.
So just to add, SOC 1's target audience would be all the CFOs, CIOs, and financial statement auditors, right, Akshay?
Yes, exactly. So all the people who are connected or are functioning under the financials or commercials or the financial infrastructure or the structure of the company become the consumers of these reports. So your customer would typically demand a SOC 1 report from you to check and see and get an assurance that in fact the services that you are providing are in line with their internal controls for their financial reporting.
Okay. So a lot of people have joined. Any questions you have, please feel free to add into the comment section for SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3, anything. Okay, we'll try to answer. Go on, Akshay.
Yeah. So in SOC 2, the financial reporting aspect is not considered. It is generally, SOC 2 is typically talking about all the controls that are required to provide the services to a customer or an entity, whether they have been implemented in a secure fashion or not. So SOC 2 typically talks about the security aspect and not just the financial reporting. Generally all the services that you are providing to me as an entity have covered everything from a security aspect or not.
Okay, got it.
Right. SOC 3 is a more relaxed format of it. SOC 3, the idea is that the SOC 1 and SOC 2 have very specific audiences, and a SOC 3 report is like a public report, which is like an attestation, a more relaxed version of SOC 2, which is to say that yes, I am providing an assurance of all the services that I'm providing in general, and this is for public usage, and people can also access and view these reports.
Akshay, so can I say that the SOC 3 report is can be published anywhere, on the website?
Yes, usually people do. Yes, people usually do publish their SOC 3 reports. It's kind of the essential need of a SOC 1, SOC 2, or SOC 3 report is to assure people that we are doing everything in a secure and in a compliant manner, and the specific audiences will look for SOC 1 and SOC 2, and for me to tell everybody yes, you go ahead, have a look at what type of services I'm offering and what kind of controls I am managing. I will publish that for people and potential customers and clients to see.
Yeah, especially when and also I think SOC 3 reports, the layout will be different. They will be easy to read in terms of layman language, right?
Yes, it will be easier to understand. It may not divulge as much information as a SOC 1 or a SOC 2 report, because it's for a general assurance. So yes, the format will be simpler, the format will be easier to read, better in terms of consumption by audience in general.
So can I say that SOC 1 is for financial audits, as you rightly mentioned, and SOC 2 is for general audit for the entire, security operations thing?
Yes, exactly.
SOC 3 is for marketing purposes, because we do not need the complete details step by step as we need in the SOC 2 level. So can that be summarized like that?
Yes, very well said. If we are only targeting the financial aspect of it, then SOC 1 reports come into picture. The SOC 2 focuses intrinsically on the information security aspect of it. For a SOC 1 report, information security will be a part of the system specific service organization system, which is relevant to protecting the user entities. So one thing to talk, when I keep mentioning user entities, basically the person who is using your service. So that is like your customer or your client. So the user entity's interest in safeguarding the controls for specific to financial reporting.
Okay. So we have a question from Mahinder. He's asking, I have this doubt on SOC, like there are 2 or 3 types of, can you tell us the difference, and what is the most important type in demand these days?
Oh, okay, two aspects to it. So let me first question is very valid. So we differentiated in SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3. Now, what is the type 1 and type 2 within these control reports? Is the type 1 states that when this so SOC 1 SOC type 1 report says that the control effectiveness or the system was tested at a specific period of time. At a very specified point of time, there was a CPA, there was a certified public accountant, there was an auditor who came, who checked against those things at point of time, and then that report was created and that has been shared with you. Type 2 defines a time period. Type 2 says that this audit was done, these controls were observed, these observations were made over a period of time, and you may then specify from this date to this date. So when there is a time period involved, it becomes a type 2 report, and when there is a point of time report, it becomes a type 1 report.
Also, just to add here, I would say that for SOC 1, the type 2 report that is there, it is basically for all the publicly traded companies, and this report is used to satisfy Sarbanes-Oxley 404 requirements. That's why people use this report specifically.
Yes, the SOX one, the SOX criteria.
Yeah,
that is true. And in terms of demand, I mean, I would say that SOC 1 is more like a very specialized audit and report. Specifically over financial reporting. SOC 2 has a wider criteria because in the sense that it's not just talking about the financial reporting anymore. So the scope and the area of SOC 2 is wider. And from a cyber security perspective, I would say that SOC 2 has a more direct relevance because it talks about the 5 principles of SOC 2, which we'll discuss. So it talks about how you are implementing, how you are ensuring the CI, the confidentiality, integrity, availability, the common criteria of security that they have defined, and how you are making sure that there are controls to make sure that the service is being provided, and the controls that are implemented for a continual provider of services are actually performing optimally and have been tested effectively or not.
Right. And also you rightly said that SOC 1 basically, type 1 is basically point in time financial audit, whereas SOC 2 type 1 is a point in time security audit as well as availability and all the integrity audits all combined, right?
Yes, and yes, so it's just to say that we are talking about services here. So all the aspects of information security, when we talk about incident management, risk assessment, all of that comes inside SOC 1 and SOC 2 and SOC 3 as well. All of these are there, but yes, like you said, that since anything which is very specific to the financial implications becomes the part of SOC 1, everything that is relevant for a user entity becomes a part of SOC 2, and SOC 3 is like a more relaxed version of SOC 2.
And if I want to see a detailed over a period of time financial audit report, then I go for SOC 1 type 2, right?
SOC 1 type 2, SOC 2 type 2, yes.
Right. Okay.
So, what it basically why these bifurcations have happened is that any if I am a user entity, and if I am expecting to see that whether if I'm taking your services, you're doing good or not, I may want to look for a period of time, or at any point of time, if I have some concerns, then I can immediately request for a SOC 1 audit or a SOC 2 audit, and then you can do a type 1 audit and get it done, and then you could present that report to me. So it's kind of like at any point you want an assurance, it's available. There is a framework out there. There's a methodology out there. It's possible. Now it all depends on what you have done and what is your user entity or your customer's concern or requirement for you to be. Ultimately, it's a business enabler. Why this is done is so that if they have assurance, then they can continue to get services from you, and through these reports, you can also attract potential customers or user entities as well.
Right, absolutely. For those of you who have just joined this webinar, just web video, live video that we are doing, any questions you have, please feel free to enter in the comment section. We'll try to address it. You can ask anything and everything related to SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3, or if you have any other questions apart from that, from any other standards also, GDPR, PCI DSS, anything, just go for it. Okay. Akshay, so by the time we are discussing it, what is the requirement of these reports? SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3. Are these reports, from my understanding, this is what I understand, are these reports just to showcase that you are compliant from all the aspects of security? SOC 1 is for financial aspect, and SOC 2 is for generic aspect, and SOC 3 is for publicizing that yes, you are handling all the customer data in a secure fashion. Is this the requirement for all these reports?
Yeah, love, you could say that, but it's more from a service organization going ahead and saying that, look, these are the services, I am detailing everything for you, I am telling. And so there are a lot of aspects. So the major purpose of it is to showcase that the that the management, that the company itself is taking those processes very seriously. So they have implemented frameworks, designs, and controls to ensure that they are operating. They talk about management's intent on assuring all the user entities that yes, we follow the best in class methodologies, policies, procedures. The SOC reports talk about the management's vision. They talk about they have something called as a management assertion, which is like a written statement where management has to write down and specifically state that all the management description, all the controls that we have mentioned, they follow the right criteria. We have identified the criteria and we are making an assertion. We are telling that your interests have been taken care of, your financial reporting has been taken care of. They also go ahead and define how and why I am saying this, because I have all policies and procedures in line. I am detailing each and every service that I am providing to you. I am detailing each and every process that is involved in providing that service to you, be it manual, be it automated. I have something called as a control environment, where we say that control environment is essentially a framework, an underlying framework which defines all what types of controls are required to run that service and how you are ensuring that the controls are actually being implemented properly or not. So I have a control environment in place, and then they actually go ahead and sign it and show it in the report that yes, so that gives you an assurance. It's more from a point of an assurance where I have a disclosure. I'm disclosing my details to you. I'm telling you what I am doing it, and there is an auditor who came from an authorized authority and has come and audited me, and this is his view of whatever I have done. So a section of a SOC report, a huge chunk of a SOC report, talks about what the management or the company has to say about what it's doing. And then it is provided by the part where there is an auditor's report, which is a part of the SOC report, where the auditor then goes ahead and states that this is what I did, this is how I tested, this is the methodology that I used, this was the scope, this was the sampling, and these were the observations.
Okay. Sachin Vetal has a question. He's saying, is there any specific report format for these types of SOC reportings?
So I wouldn't say that there is a specific format, but yes, there are outlines of a SOC report. So I could walk you through it. So typically, how a SOC report would look like is it would have an introduction wherein you are giving an overview of your business. Right, you're telling what your business is all about. You're telling about what is your responsibility. There is a management committee as a part of SOC which has to be established, where they talk about there is an independent management committee that is dedicated to maintaining the effectiveness of the services that we are providing. Then the second section, so that introduction is something wherein you showcase what you're doing. Then the second section will talk about the management assertion that I said, which is like a written statement. It has a very specific language to it. where it says that you have to assert. The management is basically going ahead and saying that I attest that all the controls are in place. I attest that all the services are following. We have defined some criterias for this assertion, what these criterias are based on. So all of this is placed in the management assertion. That is one point which is very important and very crucial for that SOC report. Then you go ahead and you describe what is my control environment. You talk about you go ahead and you list down all your services. So you're saying in SOC 2, in SOC 1, you go ahead and say for the financial reporting aspect, these are the services. You have to describe each and every service which you are providing to your client. Then you go ahead and you have a description for all the types of controls that are in place. You go ahead and define that, what was the am I subcontracting anything, what kind of data am I processing, what is the scope. So for example, you could say that let's say you're a financial data processing company, and you have a server hive, or you have a data center. So what you are saying is that the data center system which is processing the financial information of my user entity falls under the scope. And under that, then you list down all the how should I say this, all the infrastructure that is required, all the hardware, software. You define the information system, which is essentially the people, process, and technology who are supporting that service, or the processes that are relevant for the service to run smoothly. You define a communication system. Are you using any kind of how are you communicating things, how are you monitoring, so you define the monitoring aspect. How is your issue management or issue tracking happening, so that could be a part of it. How are you handling change management? So you kind of list down everything. And then the service auditor will typically, so you define and you present the kind of controls you have, and the effectiveness of those controls are then tested by the service auditor. So this would be the part where you have defined the control objectives, and then the service auditor's report comes in, wherein he talks about what period of time did I test this, what are the types of tests I did, which would typically be like, was there a one-on-one, was there a Q&A that happened with the personnels. Then there was a spot check, actual physical audit, where you would call it like you're actually sitting and observing the systems that are in place. Then observing over a period of time for SOC 2, and at a point in time for type 2, and a point in time for type 1. Then auditor would go ahead and say that whether did I check each and every control, or whether did I do a sampling, or his methodology and his testing. Then he will typically list down or break down your controls into the categories. You could say that change management, physical security, information security, and backup. So all on those categories, what all controls are there. Then the description of the control. The auditor will then say, how did I test it? I checked for the documentation, I looked into their change management solution, I sat in the meeting. And then his final observation, wherein he says that whether there was a deviation or from the control that was specified when I audited it.
Okay. So Akshay, I think, can I say that SOC 1 is primarily meant for banking firms, investment firms, and other companies that house financial data, and SOC 2 is actually for non-financial companies,
for everybody.
Like these cloud service providers,
Yes.
who have the infrastructure, who are actually processing data. So SOC 2 is primarily for them, right?
Yes, that is true. Very well said. Because finance, because we're talking about finance, so basically any financial organization would want a SOC 1 report from you. And if you're a service industry, basically what we are saying is the managed service providers, the hosting providers, the service providers, in that sense, kind of majorly go for a SOC 2 report, but it's not restricted to that.
Yeah, but that is where they can showcase their abilities and their kind of storage, data processing, everything, and each and everything is pointed out here,
Yes,
right?
exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay. And SOC 3, as we already discussed, I am just repeating for the benefit of all the people who have just joined and are asking great questions. I'll come to that in a bit. SOC 3 is basically highlighting these findings of SOC 2 reporting in a more summarized fashion, where each and everybody can, you can put this information on a public website, so that anybody can read this information in a layman's language, easy to understand. Right, Akshay?
Yes, agreed.
Right. So, first of all, Mahinder has a question. He's asking, what is the okay? I want to know the difference here between SOX and SOC. Does SOX also comes under financial audit, and how important this standard compared to SOC? So he's confused between SOX and SOC.
Yeah, I mean, you can take up socks, love. I mean, I'm
Oh,
not.
sure. So, just to brief here, I'll touch upon SOX here. So basically, SOX was meant. It was designed by U.S. Congress in order to take care of all the frauds that were happening in the financial data in different companies. So that's where Sarbanes-Oxley Act came into play. Sarbanes-Oxley Act primarily focuses to make sure that all the internal controls that are implemented in order to ensure that the financial data which is coming out on the financial books is accurate or not. So in order to ensure the integrity of the financial data that processed by all the companies, SOX came into play. So this is where the focus of SOX lies on. Okay, it basically lies on internal controls reporting, where it basically ensures that all the internal controls that any organization has implemented, whether they are working fine or not, can an auditor verify that, can a third party auditor again verify that. So a lot of compliance restrictions are there. We'll probably have another video on SOX separately, but SOX main focus is to ensure that there is no financial fraud. Okay, just for your understanding.
Yeah. So yes, just to add up on this, so what essentially you are very right about this, and I wanted you to explain SOX more in detail. Essentially, everybody, any organization has to have, like you said, that the financial data, the data security, confidentiality, and the security aspects of it get covered in SOX. And SOX has a lot of checks, implementations on the governance of controls as well. So in order, in line with the SOX expectation from a user entity, you have what you are calling as a SOC 1. So what I'm essentially saying is that the controls or whatever SOC 1 I have are actually implementing this, and whatever internal controls you have mentioned. So I keep on saying this: the user entity's internal control over the financial reporting is basically the bank in itself is following SOX, and they are expecting you to have SOC 1, which is kind of in line with their internal control, which is governed by something apart from other standards like SOX. I hope I'm right.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to make one thing more clear for Mahe here, Mahe, there is a understanding here. The SOC 1 Type 2 report actually directly complies with Sarbanes-Oxley Section 404. Okay, in terms of compliance. So Akshay is very well right there. There is a direct mapping here. Okay. So these are related. It's not like they're not related at all, but the focus is different. SOC 1 focus is different. SOC 2 focus is different.
SOX is more for your user entity, and SOC is more for the service provider, the service organization.
Yeah, very well. Okay, so after that, Sachin Vetal has a question. He's asking, is there any specific? Okay, I think we have covered that. So after that, Bal Krishna has a question. He's asking, which report can be used for cloud infra setup? Please clarify. I think we have already discussed this. Akshay, please clarify.
So SOC 2 report for a cloud
Yes.
infra, if you are a user entity, if you're consuming services, I think SOC 2 type 1 should be very good for point in time, and over a period, and SOC 2 type 2
Yes.
for could be good.
Very well, very well. And just to showcase whether you have implemented the SOC 2, controls, you can actually publish the SOC 3 report on your cloud website also. So in order to
That is like an attestation.
Yeah.
That if I am publishing a SOC 3 report, that means I have a SOC 2 report in place wherein I have been audited and I have been found compliant.
Okay. So Mahai is saying thanks. So Mahai got the questions clarified. Thank you, Mahai, for confirming that. So after Balakrishna, we have Shivkant Sharma. First of all, huge shout out to Shivkant again, because he is a great brother, a great friend to us. Yeah, he's actually, helping us a lot. Thank you, Shivkant, for being here. We can see your presence here with these questions. Thank you. So he's asking what is the difference between type 1 and type 2 report. I think we have covered it, Akshay, but still a little bit.
Let's do this again, quickly. So type 1 is basically, Shivkant, what we are saying in type 1 is that all the audit, the check that was performed by the service auditor was done at a specific point of time. So it will have a specific date when the audit was performed and the type 1 report was generated or created. And the type 2 says that over a period of time, between this period and that period, typically 6 months could be a good time period, is over which the controls effectiveness have been observed, and the report states the timeline from point A, from time A to time B.
Right. So after that, I have a question with Xavier. Xavier is asking if a company is already certified for SOC 2 type 2, do they still require SOC 1?
If the client so it's not about do they require or not, it's about whether the client is requesting for it, or there is an ask from the user entity for it to be done or not. If you are dealing with financial data, then you need to do SOC 1. If you're dealing with financial reporting, if your controls or your service could affect the financial reporting of your user entity, in that case, always go for a SOC 1. If not, then you don't really need a SOC
1. Right. Very well said that, Akshay. So just to add one line there, Xavier, if you have an investment bank firm, if you have a financial firm which is actually transacting a lot of data, you need SOC 1 at any point of time. Okay, just make sure you do that. Otherwise, if you are a simple cloud service provider, you are not handling any client specific data, then you can not related to finance. Okay, then you can maybe skip SOC 1 and go for SOC 2 directly. Okay.
So one thing I would like to specify, I don't know, for people out there, people confuse. So people take this more from an audit sense, that there is a non-compliance involved over here. It's not that. The SOC 1, SOC 2 and SOC 3 audits do not talk about compliance or non-compliance. They will just, the report, it's just a SOC report.
Yes.
So it's not to say that I have passed the test or I have failed the test. It's to say that I got a SOC audit done and this is the report. And the report is the deliverable. So, and like a typical audit wherein you either have a compliance or a non-compliance or a partial compliance, for that matter, if you may consider that. Here, what you are just saying is, this is my control, this is what was tested, and was there any exception that was noted or not? That will be published in the report, and then the client can have a look at the report and they may question you, and then you may have a couple of exceptions, and you may be able to then justify to the client that either this is not relevant to you, or this is why this was done, or I am implementing, I'm improving my controls, I'm implementing sub controls, and in the next audit this will be done. So it's like that. It's a report that will showcase everything. It's not a compliance or non-compliance where you are achieving for a pass or fail. Obviously, ultimately you are achieving for no exceptions.
It's basically assessment. It's an assessment that you are doing.
Yes,
exactly. Absolutely. So Xavier is saying thanks, Akshay. So he's thanking you for the explanation. Nicely done. So I think Balakrishna is also saying thanks. So people are really happy, Akshay. Thank you. I think we are actually providing value here. For all the people who have actually joined the session right now, I can see a lot of people, 10 people are here on the call. Any questions related to SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3, go ahead and shoot. And any questions apart from SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3 in terms of GDPR, PCI DSS, HIPAA, each and everything, any compliance standard, go for it. Okay, we are here for you so that you can get the most out of these sessions. So Akshay,
yeah,
go
sure.
ahead.
No,
Go
please
ahead.
ask. I have a couple of tidbits here and there. I'll just say that just as a
Okay.
filler.
Shivkant has come back. Shivkant is asking, thanks. Is there any specific standard to follow for SOC 2 for principles like privacy, security, availability, integrity, confidentiality? So now
Yeah,
he's asking.
okay. He's asking a lot of things.
Yeah.
Shivkant, good question. So basically, SOC 2, if you talk about SOC 2 basically underlines 5 principles. So it talks about common criteria security, which is basically physical and logical security is covered. It talks about confidentiality, wherein you are ensuring that the information which is required for you to provide the services or the information that you are processing of the user entity is protected. You talk about processing integrity, wherein you are saying the system. So it's basically the system that is providing a service or whatever the scope or the processes are have that integrities in place. The process in itself are accurate, they are timely, they are monitored, they are authorized. And from a privacy perspective, what you are saying is that the personal information, whatever you are collecting from the user entity, is basically collected, retained, processed, transferred in a secure manner, considering all the privacy principles. So this is the basic guiding framework for a SOC 2 audit. A SOC 2 compliance.
Right. And another question from Sachin Vetal now. Sachin is asking, as type 1 audit is specific for financial domain, since you mentioned that, does it overlaps with the PCI DSS standard as well?
No, it does not, because PCI specifically talks about an entity which is processing payment card information. Like a consumer, any consumer information, payment card information, if I am processing, that may be specific to a business, that means specific to an end user, I fall under PCI DSS, all the systems that are processing that data. But SOC 1 report is specifically saying if I have a service that could impact a specific organization's financial statements, then that comes under SOC 1 compliance.
Yeah, I think the objective is absolutely different, as you rightly mentioned, Akshay.
So I may not be storing any payment card information, but still my services may impact some. If I like I mentioned that, if you're a financial like service provider and you are a data processing company and you're not storing, you're just processing the financials of a bank or a company, then that in itself makes you fall under a SOC 1 report, but may not necessarily get you under PCI.
Yeah, so compliance is different for PCI DSS standard, and Akshay rightly mentioned it's for the payment card industry, and the SOC 1 is different. SOC 1 is basically from a service organization point of view, how you are catering to your financial controls. Right. Okay, so Shivkant has come up again. He's asking any documents or guide how to implement the 5 principles of confidentiality, integrity, that all he mentioned before, as per the SOC 2 compliance after the session. So he wants that. Okay.
Yes, definitely, Shivkant. In fact, NIST is a good framework of reference, which was a tidbit which I was going to give. The risk assessment, Shivkant, which we do, the risk assessment and risk management and all the controls regarding the CIA that we put, as outlined in the major security standards, is a good way to go. Obviously, this becomes more control specific and focuses on the systems and services which are relevant to the organization, so the user entity. But there are good frameworks. We can go ahead and give the exact guidelines as well. It's not a problem.
Yeah. Sachin Vetal is saying thank you so much, Sachin, for confirming that your question got answered. Thank you for that. So Xavier has another question. He's asking how do we how do we resolve exception in a SOC 2 report of the same audit year? Do we need a second attestation again, or do they have any specific template to handle exception like in case of ISO 27001?
So yes, you do have compensatory controls. You could go ahead and say that. So you have to be, the point over here, Xavier, is that you have to be very specific of what control is under your supervision, and then what is a control which is up to the user entity to ensure. So there are controls which will be specific for your control to work effectively. There will be a couple of controls that you would desire for your user entity to follow as well. So you have to be very specific in the limitations of what your controls are. You have to be very specific in the exceptions that you have. You may very well have them, you may very well put them in place, but you have to declare them in the report itself.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see new people joining. Any questions, please feel free to enter in the comment section. It may not be related with the SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3 as well. Okay, so speaking about that, Mahe Mahinder is asking another question. He's asking, hang on there. Okay. For any organization holding European citizens' data along with financial services, then will there be two types of audits performed like GDPR and SOC? Will both of them come into play?
Yes, obviously. I mean, and these are not related. I mean, this is if you are providing service to, just kind of depends on what kind of service you're providing. If you can give some example, I mean, is this thought behind some specific company? I mean, if there is a company who's actually providing services to European citizens as well and to an organization as well, yes, obviously they have to be GDPR compliant as well as. So SOC compliance, let's not say that you have to be SOC compliant. Let's say you just need to have a SOC report so that your client can demand. So the idea behind a SOC report is not to say that I'm SOC compliant. Let's not say we are SOC compliant. Let's just say that any point of time, your customer can ask you for a SOC report just to see whether everything is going fine or not. It's like when we take service, like when organizations take service from a service provider, sometimes the relevant stakeholders go and do an inspection of the facility, right? So it's like the same thing. You going ahead and checking each and everything. Other than that, there is a framework, there is an auditor who has done something, and then you can just go ahead and look at it, and you can see whether everything is in place or not.
Absolutely. So just to add here one more thing, the goals are different. For GDPR, you focus on PII, which is personally, personal information of any individual. The goal is different there. In SOC, the goal is entirely different. Okay. So you have to understand what is the objective, as Akshay rightly mentioned. What is the type of service that you are offering? What type of data are you holding? Are you holding PII data, or are you holding a financial data? These are the things that will help you understand whether you should go for GDPR and SOC or only one of them. I think he'll get it. Anything to add, Akshay? I don't see any more questions.
Yes. I think we can wrap this up for today. As it is, it must be really late for people. Huh? They must be.
Yeah. Any final questions before we summarize the entire session? I think it was really helpful, and a lot of questions people have asked. So I think we have clarified a lot of doubts. Just to summarize again, quickly, SOC 1 Type 1 point. Akshay, what was it? Sorry, I forgot. Point in time financial audit. Point in time financial audit. SOC 1 Type 1 and SOC 1 Type 2 is over a period of time financial audit. That is the difference between both of them. And SOC 2 Type 1 is point in time security audit, availability audit, integrity audit, all the things combined for the entire, information processing inside your organization. And SOC 2 Type 2 is over a period of time of the entire security, availability, integrity, each and everything, right? And yes. SOC 3 is basically for making sure that, all the information that you have gathered in SOC 2, you can publicly make it available, and you can actually make it in a readable format so that people can understand it and make sure that your service organization is actually compliant with the SOC standards.
Yeah,
So
one just a little bit of thing here. Instead of saying that it's a financial audit, let's just say it's an audit of the controls which are relevant, which are impacting the financial statement of a user entity. Because
yes.
people might confuse, people just tuning in might confuse this from an actual financial audit of the company itself, which is altogether a different scene. But yes, you
Yeah.
were right in
Yeah.
saying.
And just to add one more point of differentiation, SOC 1 is basically for all the investment banks, any financial firm which is dealing with the financial data. SOC 1 is for them. SOC 2 is for a cloud provider who is actually processing the entire data, information processing, information storage. SOC 2 is for them, cloud
Yeah,
infrastructure.
any managed service provider, basically any provider who's providing services. But yes, clouds are kind of major consumers of it.
Yeah, Akshay has a lot of cloud clients, huh? Don't ask me. Okay. So a lot of thanks are coming up. Mahi is thanking, Shivkant is thanking. They are saying very nicely explained. I think the session was really valuable. Before we conclude, just to make sure that all the people know who are going to watch this session, as well as all the freshers who are on the call, Anzen has launched recently a course called CIRP. The description is there in the description box of this video. It's an absolute course that anybody or everybody who is interested in cyber security should go for. Okay. So even if you don't want to go for any course at this point of time, I would request you to at least inquire and know what this course is about, so that you get a career counseling, you get an understanding. Okay.
Yes, apart from that, love, I would like to add, just so because we are talking about it, we have a
Yeah.
specific courses for having an in-depth understanding of risk management, audit, implementation, standards like ISO, PCI, even SOC 1, SOC 2, any kind of knowledge you have, we have tailor-made programs out there. Like I've said previously, you just need to just shoot an email or give a call, and if you have something specific, if you have a specific requirement, at least what we can do is we can guide you, even if you choose not to go ahead with a training program, what we can do is at least guide you in a certain path. And that's why I'm here, that's why we have been doing these videos as well, so our doors are open even in that scenario, or for those things as well.
Yeah, even experienced people who are facing challenges in their jobs because of pandemic situation, any kind of issues, if you are in the information security, cyber security space, I would request you to go and at least get a career counseling from these guys. These guys will actually help you a lot.
And also keep posting this, try to find love's groups that he's running. There are a lot of people, there's a huge community.
Yeah, a
Shivkant
huge
is
audience. Yeah.
Shivkant is part of them. He's like one of the most active people out there, and we have a lot of domain experts over there discussing continuously, and a lot of energy going on.
Yeah. Thank you so much for tuning, everybody. It was a great session. Thank you, Akshay, for your time. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.